Yo, fellow humans, how's it going? Coming to you live from the garage here on Sunday. Always gotta look at my watch, I never know the day or date. Sunday, July 21st. And speaking of sun, it's a hot one. Sunny day in the Pacific Northwest here. Pretty sure it's hot all the way around the country. I think the mainstream media, they're trying to pin it on global warming. But you know what we really call this? We call it summer. Ha! So anyway, just coming to you this afternoon. I want to chat to you for a few minutes just about some happenings that I have going on, projects and things that I've been working on. So we'll do that for, say, 10, 15 minutes or so. But what I really want to do is have a conversation, chat with you guys about space. Being that this weekend, yesterday, it was the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 astronauts setting foot on the moon. I just want to hang out with you guys on the phone here. It's a lot easier to do these live chats on the phone when I want to look at the comments. So I want to look at some comments, want to take some questions from you guys. And sometimes the comments get distracting though. Take some questions and we'll talk about space, whatever you guys want to discuss in that regard. So we'll do that for a little while here. And first of all, how about the projects that I have going on? Yeah, it's a little hot in this garage. I think my forehead's a little shiny. What projects do I have going on? Well, first let's talk about what I'm doing with YouTube here. So, got a lot of ideas with that. A lot of things will be coming, of course. I know I say that quite a bit, but no, for real this time. I got the big-ass whiteboard up on the wall, and speaking of space, I'm planning on doing a video on that in the next day or two, really dissecting all the UFO information, UFO hints that we've gotten from Q's drops. There might actually be a little more than you realize, not just the couple of drops on space programs outside of public domain and false moon landings are real, but there's actually been quite a few hints and pieces of data here and there that I'll analyze for you guys on that. So that'll be within the next couple of days. And then I hope you guys enjoy the live streaming setup I got in there. Been doing the news briefs. I want to do them every day, but quite frankly, I'm going to be pretty busy this summer, so my schedule doesn't really free up till September-ish, maybe a month and a half from now, but at least every other day. I've been doing them every other day for now, which is good. And I'm working on the OBS. I think my last video I did a couple days ago, I was trying to get my intro to play before the camera feed, and I messed it all up. There was like 10 seconds of blackness at the beginning of the video, and then the intro finally played, and the audio was just way too loud. So I don't know, I'll just do basic news briefs in there on basic OBS, and I'm not quite a techie, but nevertheless, live streaming going on in there. That's coming soon, and thinking of what I'm going to do on with my multiple channels too. Thinking of doing maybe some more health videos on that Conscious Strength YouTube channel that I tried to start like a year ago. I think I had 12,000 subscribers on it. Haven't posted on it in, say, that year, but thinking about getting that started again now that I've got brands I'm trying to build and a lot more information that I'm trying to get out into the public. Speaking of which, you know, not just multiple YouTube channels, but course modules. I'll be working on like a video e-learning course that I'll be putting out within a couple months or so. And also, I've had some questions on movies, other documentaries, and the sequel to Above Majestic, I believe, working title is The Cosmic Secret. It's going to be a little more happy, a little more spiritual and uplifting than the deep depths that Above Majestic went into, which is necessary, but we're going to go the opposite end of the spectrum with this one. That will be out in October, so most definitely that'll be later this year. And then, of course, I've just got other projects, other ideas going on in this gray matter here. So yes, lots of videos, YouTube videos will be coming, videos on the whiteboard, documentary projects. I got course modules, because I really want to go in depth into like health and maybe the space stuff or whatnot in different course modules. Anything that interests me too that I don't quite get out on this channel. And what else in that regard? I think that's all with the projects I want to share right now. Then I have the other brand I've been building. I call it Conscious Strength. I have Destroying the Illusion, where I do a lot of media and whatnot, but I have Conscious Strength that I'm working on you know, I have an Instagram channel for it. I just mentioned the YouTube channel called Conscious Strength. But I've been working on bringing, of course, all my goodies to the public's actual physical solutions that I think just, number one, that I use because of course, practice what you preach. But number two, that can help people. The knowledge is helpful, you know, but you have to act on the knowledge, and actually having stuff to be able to use to either get your body healthy or protect you or something to that effect, definitely needed. So number one, I've got shungite phone protectors. Yeah, smash that like. Thanks, Super Sleuth. Thanks, Mod. Smash it. Pound it. Thanks, y'all. I've got this EMF phone protector. This is made out of shungite, Herkimer diamond, black tourmaline, and quartz. And this is just a testimony. I'm not making any claims, blah, 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 FDA, warning, whatever. Has not approved this product. But I had a guy reply to a tweet of mine the other day, and he said that normally when he holds a phone, his hands like hurt. I think he said they burn. But when he got one of these and put it on his phone, his hands didn't hurt anymore. So that's just testimonial. A lot of people are sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. I'm sensitive with my hearing. I can hear them. Like people plug in, I don't know, game consoles or Wi-Fi routers, and I can just hear the ping. I can't walk through like hospitals. Hurts my head to walk through hospitals for many more reasons than just the EMF. But phone protectors. And then what else? I've got Ormus on the site. I'm not going to go too in-depth into this right now, but basically I view it as like elemental minerals that give us just so much more electricity. I'm going to try to get a dude, his name's Ken Rolla. If you guys are familiar with Ken Rolla, he's awesome. I met him at ECETI a month ago, and his brain is brilliant. And I'm going to try to get him on this channel to explain Ormus and explain scalar energy, scalar frequency technologies, free energy technologies, et cetera, et cetera. So be aware for that. Oh yeah, interviews on this channel too. Yes, those will be coming back. So we went through the EMF protector. I also have other orgonite pyramids and protective pieces on there as well, not just the phone protector. You can check those. Ormus, and then greens. I just came out with this, which I'm super excited about. Organic, vegan. For those of you out there that's important to you, just a ton of superfoods, ton of antioxidants, and a greens powder. There's a berry flavor. There's a tiny bit of stevia in here, which actually makes it taste good, palatable. You can just throw it in water and it's good, berry. And then the chocolate one is very popular. I do the chocolate in water with a scoop of chocolate protein, and that's my post-workout. I think I went and played soccer for like 2 hours today. I probably look a little burnt from that. And after my workout, boom, chocolate protein, chocolate greens, and all that organic grass-fed in a cup. So that's some stuff. You know, after I'm done with this video, I'll make some links pop up in the description, or you can just go to my website, jordansather.com, and there's a shop button there. I've also got some other stuff that I'm not showing you here. So that's that. I think I've ranted about just about everything. Oh, one more thing, Patreon. Shout out to all you new people on Patreon. Thank you very much for joining. For those of you out there who don't know what I do on there, don't know that I have one, Patreon, or even know what Patreon is. Patreon is a subscription-based service where you pay a monthly, basically whatever you want to donate to a content creator, and you get certain perks. Some people on Patreon, they get very in-depth with it. You know, they make these different scales of different dollar amounts, and you get different stuff on each one. I don't get that in depth. I just do live chats on there. I do a couple of live chats a month. I just did one last week. I do giveaways. I give away just random things. Sometimes I give away my products, extra swag, hats, shirts, organite things I have. I do a couple giveaways a month on there. And then also there's a discount code. So if you want to grab anything from my website, the Ormus, organite, greens, etc., there's a 15% discount code that you can use as much as you want if you join on Patreon. So if you're looking for a new greens, just sign up to my Patreon for like $1 a month, $1 a month, and then you get the discount code to the greens. It saves you money. But nevertheless, doing that for all you guys. And that's everything I wanted to roll through. Now let's get into space talk. Hey from Sydney. Thanks, Glenn. I may or may not be trying to come to the land from down under next year, so more news on that soon. All right, well, got some questions on Antarctica here, which I will get to, but seeing that, oh, one more thing. Any of you guys who are producers of handcrafted goods, organite pendants or supplements, anything like that, send me an email. Send me an email and we can talk, and I'd be more than happy to see if we can work something out. I love to support people who are, you know, trying to make it in this fiat currency wage slave world until we can get our energy, get our technologies disclosed and the public awaken. But anyway, let's first talk about just the Apollo moon landing, given that it's, you know, the 50th anniversary of it. Let's talk about that moon landing now. Of course, when it comes to the moon landing, there is so much, God, what do we want to call it? Intelligence, counterintelligence, information, disinformation out there about the moon landing. Of course, you often hear it's fake. They never landed on the moon. It's fake, etc., etc. But let me posit you this, all right? What if they did land on the moon? The Apollo astronauts did set foot on the moon, millions of miles away, or however far away it is. What if they did land there, but some of the videos that have been put out into the public are fake, okay? Again, it's not a black and white world. These sort of things, they are layered. So just because they landed on the moon doesn't mean there's not a bunch of fake disinformation stuff out there just to muddy the waters, just to get people off the signal, the actual signal. Put a lot of noise out there so people won't be able to tell the signal. Put a bunch of fluff out there so people can't hone in on what the truth is. Now, what I think personally what happened with the moon landing is that, yes, they got there, they got through the Van Allen belts. That's a question in a lot of people's heads, and quite frankly, it's ridiculous to me. The Van Allen belts are, you know, those electromagnetic radiation bands outside our Earth that people say, oh, they can't pass through, but they wax and wane, or basically the radiation gets higher and gets weaker through those belts. So yes, people can pass through, you can get instruments through, there's technologies where you can protect devices as they go through it. So there's just a lot of, you know, there's a lot of false rabbit holes, like dead-end rabbit holes that they purposely put out there to lead you down each one. But yes, they got through the Van Allen belts and got there, but what I think happened is that the astronauts likely saw stuff, whether it was installations, facilities, structures on the moon there. Would you doubt that? And also, were there craft they saw? Look into the testimony of William Tompkins, okay? William Tompkins. He has passed away about 2 years ago now, but nevertheless, he came out towards the end of his life. He passed away at the age of 94, 95, very old guy, but bless his heart, amazing individual. Came out towards the end of his life just to tell his story, just because he thought the world needed to know what does he have to lose. He's been involved in some just incredible stuff that he has eyewitness testimony of. And check it out. I was the last person, I'm very honored, the last person to ever interview William Tompkins. He did some other interviews out there as well. You can YouTube them, and they're great. He witnessed the Battle of Los Angeles event, not the movie, but in 1942, there was large craft seen over Long Beach Harbor there in Southern California. He was an eyewitness to that, okay? So he's got great information about that. He was saying great things about what he went through. I mean, he was working in a naval intelligence program during World War II, debriefing Navy spies that were embedded in German secret space programs during World War II. William Tompkins was in San Diego debriefing, I believe, about 29 spies that were in on this program. That's what Tompkins said. Navy spies that were over in German secret aerospace programs. He did that for like 4 or 5 years. Then after that, he went on to work for Douglas Aircraft in the 50s and early 60s in a secret think tank there, and designed spacecraft for the Navy, electromagnetic propulsion spacecraft for the Navy. Basically, what I believe is probably the early thoughts, early ideas that went into the Solar Warden program. It's been said the Navy classified program the Navy installed in the 80s or so. So, again, this goes deep, man. This goes deep. You got to spend really years researching all aspects of this stuff to get down to the core of it. I'm like sweating in here. But William Tompkins, yes, and he said that I believe he witnessed the live feed of the Apollo moon landing there when it was happening, because I can't remember what contractor he was working for that time. He spent about a decade with Douglas and went to work for some other contractors. TRW is one, maybe some others. But he drew some pictures. It's in his book. His book's called Selected by Extraterrestrials. You can find it out there right now. Amazing read. But you can also look at one of Dr. Michael Sala's books. He wrote a book on William Tompkins that gives a lot of backstory and is very articulate, well done. I believe that's the second book in his Secret Space Program series. Or maybe it's the first one. Second one. Anyway, William Tompkins said he saw the live feed of the Apollo moon landing, the NASA moon landing. It went down, and he said that in the live feed there were objects that met them there in the crater. And basically signaled to the astronauts like, okay, take your photos, pick up your rocks, but get out of here and don't come back. Why haven't we been back to the moon in 50 years, 45 years, okay? Well, it's not because we don't have the technology. The technology absolutely exists. I'll talk about that in a sec. It's not that they can't do it. It's not that there's no money. It's that there's a lot of stuff there they want to keep secret. They don't want to send humans back, and at least publicly, until now. But we've got different powers and control than used to be in control. So I think that's what happened with Apollo. I think they really got there, but there was stuff there that they didn't want to share with the public. So that's why it said the Apollo astronauts, when they landed, they talked in some code or something like that, and they switched to a secure comm link. I think that is true as well. And then, of course, what were they saying on that secure comm link? So that's what happened with Apollo, but nevertheless, now let's talk about the difference between public and private space, okay? This is a huge part people miss when they're thinking about space programs and secret space programs, et cetera, et cetera. There's what we're told in the public domain, if you're going by Q's drops, and then there what we're not told about, okay? Public space was NASA for decades, and then more recently it's turned into SpaceX and whatever the heck Jeff Bezos is doing, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's all public. Some private companies, some federal organizations, but it's public. It's what we're publicly told. It's what they let out into the media and the education institutions, okay? What do they not let out? That's a different question. That's been the subject of inquiry for years, decades, by many people, many books. There's so much open source, publicly available information. You don't need any sort of insider or channeling or contact or classified briefing to gather this stuff. It's all open. A lot of it's open source, okay? You can figure out at least, not exactly what's going on, but at least a decent picture of what's going on out there in space, just on your own accord. But that gets me back into, okay, private. Public over here. Then we have, thank you for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate it. It's also why I like doing these live streams on the phones more. It's because I can read the super chats. Can't really do that when I'm doing my news briefs. I keep getting establishment narrative space stuff in my YouTube feed. What do you think about Google and CrowdStrike? Google's Google. You're not going to get any sort of real news from them. Doesn't mean you can't use Google as a helpful tool. I Google stuff all the time, but I also DuckDuckGo stuff. So sometimes you gotta play with your search engines and understand how different ones are gonna sanitize, but also play with your keywords. When you get more specific and technical with your keywords, you can bring up videos they don't censor quite as much. Like, don't search anti-gravity, search electrogravitics. Bring up two different things. Don't search fake moon landings, search, many other things. Don't search flat Earth, search torsion physics. Why stuff needs to be round. So, private space, back into that conversation. Private space. What have the corporate contractors been doing since the 1950s? What's been kept classified by the patent office? Sort of technologies. What sort of technologies aren't even patented because the free energy or electrogravitic inventor was paid off, or his warehouse mysteriously burned down, or he was suicided, right? How about, again, classified projects in the programs, the intelligence agencies, the USAPs, Unacknowledged Special Access Projects, USAPs, basically projects that not even Congress or the executive branch knows about, okay? They're unacknowledged, meaning that if even a superior or anybody outside of the program asks you about it, you don't say a damn word about it, okay? And how many millions and billions and trillions of dollars have flown into these unacknowledged special access projects? Not flown, but hey, levitated into them. Materialized or dematerialized out of the Pentagon's coffers and rematerialized in Lockheed's basement, Boeing's basement, General Dynamics' basement. You know, you don't storm Area 51 for UFO secrets. You storm Langley. You storm what's under Wright-Patterson. You storm China Lake. You storm Antarctica. Ooh, we'll talk about that. We'll get there to Antarctica. But nevertheless, private and public space are two very different things. And I don't research much about public space because they haven't gone to the moon in 50 years, or so they say. But when you actually research the private space, get into understanding the technologies, what sort of inventors there were in the early 1930s, 40s, 50s, look into Victor Schauberger, look into Nikola Tesla. Of course, not what they're publicly telling us about Nikola Tesla, but what's hidden from us about Nikola Tesla. What were the technologies he was actually working on? His dynamic theory of gravity. Who is Otis Carr? Nikola Tesla is said to have passed a lot of his anti-gravity information ideas onto a man named Otis Carr. Look into him. Look into T. Townsend Brown. T. Townsend Brown was patenting electrogravitics types of devices, technologies in the 20s. He had a patent in Britain in like the late 20s. Then he came to America and patented some stuff over here in like the 40s and 50s. And holy crap. They were making stuff levitate with electricity for 100 years. 100 freaking years now. Probably 90 at least, 100, wouldn't doubt it. So yeah, completely different picture, public space and private space. And then you research, of course, those technologies, the inventors, especially get into the German interest during World War II and pre-World War II. The Nazi, I don't want to say just Nazis, but the Nazi and the other secret societies in Germany, the Order of the Black Sun, the Vril, the Thule Society, Thule, and the Nazis, they were all very interested in that occult, that hidden esoteric knowledge, being torsion physics, the anti-gravity stuff, the consciousness research. You know, a lot of those Nazi scientists came over here during Operation Paperclip, came to America after World War II, Operation Paperclip, and not only did they go into the aerospace programs, but they went into, of course, the intelligence community, MK Ultra research. There's a big connection, guys, between consciousness research and psychic abilities and space programs. You know, you get into the craft of the technologies that are thought controlled, right? And you got a flying saucer with a crystal in the middle and capacitors all set up and whatnot, and you just freaking move the thing with your brain. I mean, incredible stuff. So quite a world that we aren't told about, but you can get pretty damn close to reality if you just research and take the time to do it. It's more important to unlearn than it is to relearn. Relearning is easy, guys. Relearning is really easy. It's the unlearning part that's tough, okay? That's why when I tell people, yeah, I dropped out of college and just like drink myself silly in college, I'm like, I was killing the brain cells that they were trying to brainwash me with too. So I was like keeping the slate clean, you know, unfortunately, but fortunately. So anyway, where am I going with this? So we went through the Apollo landing. We went through kind of dissecting private space and public space, and I gave you guys a lot of keywords, a lot of names you can go research. I mean, truly, when you look at the last 100 years, I mean, the last 100 years of history is so important to understand, and how the deep state is transnational. This deep state, or the New World Order, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, it's transnational. It spans nations. And the last 100 years, 120 years, is especially essential just to understand really what's going on now. I mean, of course, these deep state, these occult groups, they go back millennia. They go back, probably not even this world, but off-world. You know, why does this world feel so inhuman? It's because there's a lot of non-human influence on it. But at least the last 120 years, okay? You understand the Rockefeller control in the early 1900s, how the Rockefellers gave a shitload of money, Rockefellers, Carnegies, and other families, gave a shitload of money to the General Education Board, a lot of money, okay? So in the early 1900s, they were already laying the foundations of the brainwashing that you are receiving now. The early 1900s, 120 years ago, right? You gotta understand the education institutions. The news is fake, yeah, the news is fake, and a lot of people are waking up to that, but it's gonna be a rough one for people to understand how fake university education and college education is, okay? There's a lot of good information in it, but they will not tell you the big picture. They do not holistically think. They're just compartmentalized as shit. God, everything's compartmentalized, right? Intelligence, community, our thinking in schools, all of it. Got to do away with that. Holistic thinking is crucial. So when you put the dots together for yourself, think holistically, you're like, wow, the Rockefeller family and all these industrialists, deep staters 100 years ago, they were freaking putting all this money into our education system. At the very same time, they were controlling our healthcare system, Rockefeller medicine. You got Abraham Flexner writing these reports in 1910 on behalf of the Rockefellers to completely destroy natural health. 80–90% of chiropractors and other naturalists and herbalists within like a decade wiped out because of the Rockefeller family, because of these assholes. So the deep state was starting to control this country before World War II, okay? Of course, Federal Reserve in 1913. So the deep state was getting control of America pre-World War II, but they didn't have, of course, as much control as they had with the Axis powers over there. And there was a lot more, of course, there was more freedom, there was more still good people in this country. And unfortunately, World War II happened, and nevertheless, they say, public, that Allied powers won, but deep state's transnational, and they got their Nazis and funneled them into America here. So Operation Paperclip brought a few thousand over. They went into intelligence community, media, aerospace, big pharma, all these industries. So, and even William Tompkins, he has some interesting testimony and stories about how when he was working at Douglas Aircraft in the late 50s and early 50s, there was a big split in Douglas, and you know, a lot of these scientists were being brought over, and basically the Rand Corporation, that think tank company, very involved in a lot of UFO stuff, they broke away from Douglas, and the Rand Corporation was filled with baddies, bad scientists. I don't like to say good or bad, but say those with more nefarious agenda. Here's a comment. I'll get into some comments here. UFOs are 70–90% American. Read the book called This, That. I haven't read that book, so I don't want to say it and promote it, but you can't say UFOs are 70–90% American. Really, that it's a lot more complicated than that. And I wouldn't even say they're American. Like when you get into these unacknowledged special access projects, you can't say it's really the government. It's not even really a corporation. It's like a group within the corporation, okay? Because you could have other people in that same corporation. You could have two guys at Lockheed, two scientists, have no idea what's going on down the hallway at this compartmentalized program. So UFOs aren't, I mean, they're just piloted by somebody, and that somebody is either a human or non-human. Is it ours or theirs? I would say a lot of sightings have been ours, man-made. To say they're American, though, I don't know. Nevertheless, America has definitely led the way in secret space program development, but you know, maybe what's been sold to China. It's really interesting researching what's been sold to China over the last 10 years. And remember that story that came out recently-ish, but about those Chinese spies that they were hacking, or they were stealing classified information from aircraft companies from 2010, like not that long ago, 2010 to 2015. And they were just arrested and indicted maybe last year. You guys, many of you know what I'm discussing. Easy search can show you. But nevertheless, Chinese spies indicted, arrested for stealing aircraft information. Then you look in the mainstream news, what they're trying to sell us about China and their developments. They've been developing, quote, quantum radar and coming out with their new, is it the J22? Don't know if I'm getting those letters, numbers right, but their new stealth aircraft. And they're coming out with, you know, China's been really interested in Antarctica. Why? There's almost a power struggle in Antarctica right now between the U.S. military and China too. So, seen some interesting research about that. Thanks for the super chat, my friend. Illuma Donkey Truth Mare. Those damn Illuma donkeys. They're such asses, aren't they? Epstein and Pizza Fence. Yeah. We'll go through 2 more topics. Okay, we'll switch this up here. I'll stop ranting about whatever I was just ranting about. We'll go into 2 more things, then we'll finish this up. So I'm not sure how much battery I have. So, number 1, your super chat just mentioned Epstein, Pizza Fence, you know, all these other hardcore truths, explosive, just dark occult shit coming to the light, coming to the public surface right now. Let's talk about that UFO limited hangout disclosure, okay? Pretty much everything you're seeing in the mainstream media right now is all, I'm not saying it's false, but the context is not there. They're not giving you a shitload of context, and it's UFO information that's, a lot of it's done by, in my opinion, controlled or influenced people or just freaking idiots, and it's there to distract you. Similarly to the Area 51 story right now, huge distraction, right? It's there to distract you, and it's there for them to insert their gatekeepers, their gatekeeper journalists, their gatekeeper authors, their gatekeeper reporters, their gatekeeper film producers, like everybody who's, whether they're lying or they're just useful idiots, don't know their intentions, but they're supporting a shitty initiative. So they're inserting their gatekeepers, and these people are supporting this big distraction being led by, you know, Tom DeLonge, and how many other people are connected to it. I could go down the names, but you have his To the Stars organization, and the media is really pumping it, and they're pumping it to feed you into everybody promoting it, because I've especially noticed this. As you guys know, I'm in multiple communities. I go all across the board, holistic. These people supporting all this mainstream UFO stuff we're seeing right now, whether it's Tom DeLonge, or I'm even seeing a lot of people supporting Bob Lazar, and just mainstream, right? the UFO folk that end up in like Vice articles and stuff like that, they all are undermining. They either call it fake, or they say you're crazy, or they say it's wrong, but they are undermining Pizzagate and Q, Pizza Fence and Q and Epstein, and completely either ignoring it or somehow directly or indirectly undermining it, undermining full disclosure. So, you know, nobody is really that interested. It's pretty funny, actually, all these UFO stories over the media, but they can hardly get, you know, To the Stars YouTube channel is like, and they're not really getting that much publicity with it, but it is confusing people that aren't that familiar with the UFO topic. So, I mean, I'm even seeing a lot of Q community folk getting caught up with some of these mainstream media UFO stories and not realizing who is on the TV talking to them. Like, you've got this ex-intelligence guy who's from a super wealthy family who's connected to the Rockefellers on CNN and NBC talking about this UFO stuff, and people just don't know those connections. So a lot of well-meaning truthers are getting caught up by it. They're also inserting their gatekeepers that call very important topics fake, whether they don't know it or not, whether they know they're lying or not, don't know, but nevertheless, I've seen them call very real topics fake. Shun Pizzagate, shun Q. So it's undermining full disclosure. You got to understand that, you know. And a lot of people say, oh, it's a head start. Yeah, it's getting the mainstream people thinking about these things. Yeah, but dude, we don't want to start off on the wrong path, period, and keep going down that, okay? Truth and transparency, 100%. We want to start off on that path and be on that path only. So when I see it, I'm honest, man. I'm like, yeah, great, UFOs in the news, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I've done presentations where I showed a picture of horseshit, and I called it horseshit. For those of you that were at those presentations. Because it is. So that's that. I mean, they're just giving you a tiny sliver. That's the definition of a limited hangout. Define limited hangout. It's a situation where when the veil of secrecy is getting shredded, when they're waking up, this person or group are waking up to the truths that somebody's trying to keep hidden, they'll give them a tiny sliver of the truth in some twisted context just to hide the more incriminating evidence. So they're giving us a tiny, tiny sliver. They're giving us like one UFO video in the mainstream media and talking about this one tiny program that ran in the Pentagon for 5 years for 20 million bucks. They're talking to us about these tiny things and disregarding the rest. And in fact, you know, it's interesting. These I wouldn't be surprised. It would not surprise me. Do I think it's likely? I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tom DeLonge's To the Stars group becomes the first, I think I said this in one of my last news updates, I wouldn't be surprised if they became the first green-lighted group to publicly go down to Antarctica and film something. And that would, I mean, boom. That would be a good move for the Deep State's limited hangout UFO disclosure agenda, but a bad move because we know about it. Ha! So the more we figure out these things and expose these things and gather what their agenda, their intention is with all this, which is, you know, when you understand people and what's going on and these sorts of things, how the deep state or how they use the intelligence community, it's pretty easy to figure out. So it ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. Yeah, I've been calling it pretty well. I'll be like, you guys, I'm getting the hint. I'm lurking on Twitter on some folks' accounts and watching the mainstream media. I'm getting a feeling within a week or two we're gonna see another rash, another big push of UFO stories in the media, and boom, happens. Damn, son, I look stressed. No, I look burnt and hot. I've been out in the sun for hours today. I'm steady. So, yeah, that's a lot of ranting on that UFO limited hangout, right? That'd be a good video for the whiteboard. Connect the dots and everything. I do look stressed. I'm not that stressed. Not. How about Antarctica? Okay. So, what's the deal with Antarctica? Again, we need to look at this through timelines. So there's an ancient history with Antarctica. There's a modern, like last 100 years history with Antarctica, and then there's a what the heck's going on now. So I'll give you just the quick brief in each, and then we'll finish this up, and I'll take maybe a few more questions, and that's that. Thanks for the super chat, my man. I'll answer that in a video upcoming. So, ancient history with Antarctica. I think our Earth had a pole shift, a cyclical pole shift, as it's done many times and as it's probably going to do soon. So a pole shift of not just geomagnetism, but actual geophysical pole shift. I think Antarctica used to be on a different spot of the Earth. In fact, I think Antarctica used to be subtropical. Subtropical. And not too long ago, really. Now, during this cyclical pole shift event that culminates with many different things, solar flash, pole shift, rotation of the Earth, I think Antarctica was flash froze, and it moved into its current position, and whatever flora or fauna were there were froze pretty quick, and also potentially whatever structures or civilization was there. Whether there was human or non-human influence on the civilization. You know, a lot of people say Atlantis, a lot of people say all these different things. I'm not going to attach any names to it, but yeah, a lot of good data that shows that prehistoric advanced civilizations existed, and they were advanced in different ways. They weren't, you know, we think we're so advanced now, but we're caught up with this, it's actually kind of bullshit technology, rocket fuel and pulsed microwave frequencies that harm us. Really, there's a lot of science out there that's kept very hidden. Pyramid sciences and the science of sound vibration, you know. When thinking in trying to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Tesla. So they were advanced in different ways than us. And I think if many top scientists now saw the technology they were using back then, they'd probably call it magic. And this magic science technology is probably what they're using in many of the black projects now. But nevertheless, ancient history of Antarctica, I think it used to be a civilization. There's pole shifts, probably flash froze, and there's stuff down there right now. Now let's get into the recent history. So within the last 100 years, of course, when those Germans, them Nazis, they were hunting for their occult research, their esoteric research. It's publicly known that they went to places like Tibet, and they even did some expeditions, public expeditions that they say were exploratory, right? For science, not really, probably for their military, went down to Antarctica. Now, according to Tompkins' testimony, and the testimony of many others too, and research, Germans built some stuff out there. They built some things out, and I'm trying to look away from the comments get distracting, so that's why I'm looking all around, trying to go through the information in my head, like conduit. But let's see, I think they did. The Nazis were able to find basically subterranean or sub-ice tubes that they could navigate their submarines through, and then likely some big under ice caverns. There's been some recent mainstream media news stories where they're like slowly kind of soft disclosing a lot of physics concepts and historical concepts and whatnot to us. But anyway, there's been recent mainstream media articles about volcanic activity under the ice that creates these tunnels and under ice subterranean systems. So the Nazis went to develop those. Now remember what I said, William Tompkins was debriefing those Navy spies that were embedded in German secret space programs. Well, the Americans figured out what the Germans were doing in Antarctica, basically creating a, thank you Candace, appreciate it. Nazis were basically making this, call it a breakaway group, breakaway society down there in Antarctica. I don't like to say breakaway civilization because that implies there's like millions of people, but they probably had quite a few, thousands at least, tens of thousands, who knows, maybe more. But in 1947, I've seen some of you comment this, Admiral Byrd, yes, Admiral Byrd led Operation High Jump, went down to Antarctica. It wasn't his first time down to Antarctica. Admiral Byrd led an exploratory mission to Antarctica before 1947. This one was actually funded by the Rockefellers and Rothschilds and whatnot. That's why you can find a Rothschild island there in Antarctica and a Rockefeller plateau. There's names of actual objects, Earth objects, island and plateau down there in Antarctica. Richard Byrd was naming these for the people who were funding him. So they were very interested in Antarctica early on. Second time Admiral Byrd went in 47 was 100% military funded. They, of course, called it an exploratory scientific mission, but it was not. Admiral Byrd went down there with like 50 ships and thousands of men and bullshit. That's for science. That was to hunt some Nazis. So Admiral Byrd went down there, but unfortunately, the Germans, they, before World War II, really, or during World War II, in those early 40s, mid-40s, both the Americans and the Germans, each side of the ocean, they were both trying to work on these, reverse engineer extraterrestrial technologies. They're gathering this sort of occult science. The Americans were getting it from some stuff from Tesla. They also had some crash craft here. The Battle of LA, there was a couple of craft that crashed apparently in the Battle of LA event. You can look into that event. It's very enlightening, very mind-blowing sort of event there. But crash craft, occult science going on over here. The Germans they got more of it in the 30s and 40s. They had the Maria Orsic and her Vril girls, her Vril Society. They had Victor Schauberger. I think I mentioned him earlier. Victor Schauberger, Austrian, God, I can't even throw a label on the guy. Designer, poet, engineer, crafter, inventor. Victor Schauberger brought the Nazis some very intense research that had to do with counteracting gravity and controlling it. And then allegedly some technology exchanges with extraterrestrials occurred with the Nazis with some not so good extraterrestrials because they were down for that agenda over there. The Americans not so much. So the Germans during and pre-World War II just developed it quicker. So they brought that down to Antarctica. They brought those Hannibal saucers and whatever else they were building, and probably a bunch of slave labor down to Antarctica. And Admiral Byrd and his planes, still using Bernoulli's principle in his ships, they just could not deal with flying saucers that came out with their directed energy weapons that just blew the shit out of them. So Admiral Byrd retreated. I believe he did a quick interview before he got back to America, and they told him to keep his lips shut. But Nazi build-out, German deep state, you know, it's tough with the labels. German, Nazi, deep state, deepest of the deep state, I believe, has a home in Antarctica, or facilities or installations there. So that's that. And then, of course, in the 50s, you know, the Antarctica Treaty, they basically didn't let anybody near Antarctica unless they had special permissions. But nevertheless, all the defense contractors, you've got Raytheon, you've got Lockheed, they all have Antarctic support programs, which, sure, maybe 10% of it is publicly known and it's mainstream scientists, but shoot, what, 90% of it or whatever might be under the ice and secret installations and all that jazz. So that's the brief on Antarctica. I think I mentioned, you know, there's a lot of question about it now. Why was John Kerry down there on election day? Why have other prominent individuals been down to Antarctica? I believe even, I need to search for this. Don't 100% me on this one. But I believe in one of Huma Abedin's emails to Hillary, somebody, she mentions Antarctica too. Just mentions it. I don't know if there's too much more, but interesting. Very interesting. So there's definitely a lot of high profile interest in the South Pole. And a lot of things they want to hide, which is why they make people think that there's an ice wall in the South Pole and Byrd was going to find the edge of the Earth and shit like that. No. A lot of secrets they want to hide. And yeah, UFOs in DC in '54. So a lot of those flying saucer sightings in the 50s and 60s that happened were probably German saucers, as the paperclip scientists and the deep state infiltration into America occurred after World War II. You know, a lot of sightings happened. Government, Air Force played it off as either these people are crazy, or it's swamp gas or a weather balloon, or shoot, maybe they let people play it off as ET. Let people think it's ET so they don't realize it's one of our craft. And then boom, let's put billions of dollars into NASA, make people think rocket technology is the best we got, when rocket technology, that shit's 100 years old. Elon Musk has two companies right now. One's called Tesla. The other is a rocket company, space company that uses rocket fuel. Nikola Tesla would slap the shit out of Elon Musk for that. Nikola Tesla is rolling over in his grave with perpetual motion right now. Because Elon Musk does that. So yeah, it's all smoke screens, guys. There's so many smoke screens out there. Just understand that. There's space smoke screens and there's dead-end rabbit holes that they try to lead you into to confuse the shit out of you. And nevertheless, there is, I'm not going to say the 100% truth because none of us knows the 100% truth, but there's a lot of open source information, a lot of testimony and books, research articles and websites and YouTube videos you can spend the man hours researching through to get understand these data sets, understand this information, and get a grasp for it. And then once you do, you're they call conspiracy theorists like broken-hearted people. Conspiracy theorists are depressed. Once they get into all these things, they're so depressed people. I'm like, shit. I'm so hopeful right now. Now that I know what's possible, free energy is possible. You can form matter with energy. The shit you can do with electricity. Electricity is all there is, man. This isn't conspiracy theory stuff. This is reality. Over Unity devices, you can counteract gravity. You can, consciousness abilities, all sorts of stuff you can do with the psychic component of yourself and the stuff you can do to your physical body. The possibilities, man, that gives me excitement and hope. That sure doesn't make me depressed. I'm like, man, it won't be too long and we'll be taking trips to Mars in, 30 seconds flat. So, if not now, right? Let's get to Mars. There. So, Space Force. Yeah, okay, one last thing and then we'll finish this up. So that's why President Trump has given us a Space Force. Exactly. When you look at Q's answer to that Anon, those posts in September of last year, the Anon was asking, Q, are secret space programs real? Is this why the Space Force was created? You know, when you look at the question that Anon posted to Q, whoever that Anon was, whether theory in my head, Q baited themselves. I think Q might bait themselves with questions sometimes just because they want to get things out into the public on that day at that time. Whoever asked those questions, asked them in a very peculiar way. Are there secret space programs? Is this why the Space Force was created? Q says, boom, programs exist outside of public domain. False, moon landings are real. Space programs exist outside of public domain. Yes. So the good guys right now, this is the way I see it. Again, I don't have any insider connections. I'm just trying to call it remote viewing what the heck's going on our planet. I think that, you know, there was the Pentagon audit, very first time last year. Pentagon audit in 2018. First one is ever done, and the results of this have been kept very quiet, kept under wraps. I think now that patriots are in control, good guys are getting into the highest levels of the three-letter agencies, good guys are getting into the highest levels of power in our land, the presidential seat, et cetera, et cetera. They're trying to figure this stuff out. They're gathering intelligence. They probably figured a lot of stuff out during this Pentagon audit, and they are analyzing that and acting on that intelligence. They're trying to follow the money, follow the way the heck all these trillions of dollars have gone all these years. So, of course, that takes a lot of time and manpower to do, which is why this shit isn't happening like that, like many of us want. But let's be realistic. It's a big game, big gambit that they're doing right here. So, yeah, Pentagon audit happened. Interesting. They're probably figuring out where a lot of that money's gone. What's, you know, getting an idea of what the heck these defense contractors are actually up to. And then Space Force creation. So they're having a difficult time, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of deep state opposition, which is interesting to the Space Force, but nevertheless, they're getting people into positions that are more down for the agenda. The ex-Secretary of the Air Force wasn't down for the Space Force. The new Secretary of the Air Force is Patrick Shanahan, the ex-Secretary of Defense. He was definitely for the Space Force, and their new acting Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, is definitely down for the Space Force. So there's a push going on against that bureaucracy, trying to get it created, but that's exactly why. They're trying to gain IMO, in my opinion, access, gain control over the programs. And then, you know, once they have this Space Force, like what a perfect way to just start acquiring, getting the acquisition of space assets that they can, and then developing more open source space stuff, and then disclosing things, you know, away from NASA. NASA is too much of just a pit. Create this new Space Force, start setting it up, and then, you know, the Navy, what about that Navy patent? The Navy patent for that triangle-looking thing that they had is very interesting. You know, I can't quite remember the exact details of who patented it, but they patented a few very intriguing patents for the Navy back in the end of 2017 or recently, right? Recently, and these were granted patents, okay? So, is the Navy playing a big part in full disclosure? Very funny. William Tompkins, you know, was in the Navy and could have maintained Navy contacts. What if William Tompkins was sort of urged to come out by people towards the end of his life? You know, who knows? So, you can kind of see what groups are more for full disclosure and which ones are not. You know, you kind of, again, you can't generalize. The whole agency isn't bad or the whole service isn't bad, but typically, where there's been more deep state control has been, of course, CIA, Air Force, various defense contractors, but then you have, at least right now, we're seeing the NSA really turn for good. We're seeing the Navy, you know, really turn for good. And components of, shoot, maybe the guys in the Air Force and guys in the CIA, they're defecting or they're figuring things out and they're like, whoa, I didn't even realize I was a part of this. I don't want a part of this anymore. You know, I think full disclosure is sort of written in the stars. It's sort of inevitable. And the more dark occult shit about human trafficking and the pedo-satanism gets out there in the public domain, the deep state's gonna try to force UFO information out there into the public to try to distract. But then it's like, is our phone gonna die? And it's like, they're sort of forced to, but then it'll wake people up, but people will sniff out that bullshit, and it's just keep going, guys. Just keep researching this stuff, keep talking about it. The more you do it, the more it's just gonna continuously, exponentially evolving, this whole Great Awakening is. So don't even worry, don't even be stressed. I ain't stressed, guys. I ain't stressed. Been doing a lot of stuff lately, been getting back into exercising, and been moving around and whatnot. A lot of projects going on, but I ain't stressed. No fear. What does Suspicious Observers say? Love that YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about the pole shift and the solar flash and stuff like that, Suspicious Observers. But he goes, eyes open, no fear. I like that. I can't steal it, but I like that. So that's it, guys. That's all for this one. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour and listening to me rant about all my projects, all my things I got going on. Remember, you can check either the links down below or my website to see upcoming events, swag products I got up on there, etc. And fun space talk. Definitely fun space talk. A lot more of this information. I know it's a lot clearer. Hits home probably a lot better on that thing, the whiteboard, not the yellow vest. Shout out to the people who sent me the Q clock and yellow vest, but big whiteboard. So a lot of stuff coming, guys. Thank you. Enjoy your evening, everybody. I'll probably be back tomorrow doing the news briefs and the lives and whatnot. So done.